Hey, Shalom. First, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. The honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hope elect the house of David. Let's get into this. There's gonna be a little talk on about having integrity. Having integrity. Have things in place to have integrity. You know, having integrity is standing on business. Having integrity is not letting anyone push themselves onto you. Having integrity is protecting yourself. Having integrity is standing for what you believe. So have integrity. Have integrity for yourself. So you can be strong against the devil, these people out in this world. Everybody, everybody included. That's your brothers, your sister, your brethren, your sisterhood, And don't take this in a negative way, but it's always good to have integrity, You ain't gotta answer every question. If you don't feel like answering that question then and there, you don't have to. You can get back with someone. Or you just don't have to answer it all. Remember Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai was brought up to Pilate, And Pilate was like, you know I can put you to death, right? and Yahweh Shai stood on business like, you can't do nothing unless my father gave it to you, gave that power to you, He spoke when he spoke when he wanna speak, and he kept it real, you know? Have integrity, That's financially, spiritually, and mentally, You don't want to be pressed on by another brother. For your sister, you don't want to be pressed on by a sister. You don't want to be pressed on by your boss, your supervisors, And to be able to do that, you must have financial integrity. Build up a savings, build up a saving. So whenever something happens, you can be like, hey, I'm just, you got enough to fall back on, Like if your boss talk to you some kind of way, like you a child, or like, like that, like you a child, or like you one of his little ones, or if a man, if somebody in your workplace, your streets, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, talk down to you like you a little child when you grown, you ain't gotta deal with it. You can just get up out there, say what you have to say, and get up out there, When it comes to your father and mother, always be respectful. Honor your mother and father, But you can get up out there and you ain't gotta stress. You ain't gotta stress because you built yourself a financial safety net so you can have that integrity. That's why it's always good to try to build yourself up something else on the side, like a business or something. You can try to be an entrepreneur without being caught up in this world. So you can work for yourself. You ain't gotta work on anybody's schedule. You work on yours. There's plenty of people doing it now in this age. That's why that's another reason I want to shut this thing down. Too many people are coming so-called free. People are fed up. People don't want to be told what to do like they're a child. You working on this man's time. You got to be here at this man's specific place and time. Like what? But we're going to get to the most important part. Spiritual integrity, To stand on what you believe. You believe in Yahweh Shai, you're going to stand on what you believe. So what does that mean? Even if the world don't believe, you're going to keep to his law, statute, commandments to the best of your ability. You know, you're going to keep observing the Passover atonement. You know, you're going to keep praying. You're going to keep yourself in the right mind and not let anyone or any other thing push you away from this. You know, let's get some scriptures. Listen to this. I'm going to get this one first. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 41 and 12. Listen. Have regard to thy name. What does that mean? Have some self-respect. Have some self-respect. You know, have regard to thy name, for that shall continue with thee above 1,000 great treasures of gold. You know, you have some self-respect. You keep yourself, well-rounded. You know, you keeping yourself to a good standard. People gonna remember that. People gonna remember you. You know, they might remember these billionaires, thousandaires, millionaires. You know, but you don't have any of that. But they gonna remember you. Pookie, Ray Ray, Felicia, Keisha might come through. They gonna forget. They gonna have trouble remembering their names. But they gonna remember you coming like, hey, what was that guy? What was that woman? You know, we tried to make her do this. She just went bud. She kept to her stuff. You know, we tried to play her. She didn't play back. You know, we tried to play him. He didn't play back. He didn't answer me. He gave me the cold shoulder. You know, I respect that. Where that person at? You know, he believed what he believed in. He ain't move. He ain't budge. She believed what she believed in. She ain't move. She ain't budge. That's some integrity. That's being what? Unmovable. Because what? You're founded on that rock of Yahweh. You're founded on that rock of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You know? Listen to this. This is Proverbs 11 and verse 3. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. You know what? You're following that good way without being moved. But those that follow the perverseness of a transgressor, what? It leads them to destruction. Why? Because they didn't stand 10 toes down. They was easily moved, tossed to and fro. That can be by doctrine. That can be by the sway of another person's mindset. Nah. Listen, we're going to read that one again. This is Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3. The integrity of the upright shall guide them. What's the integrity of the upright? The law, statutes, commandments. The teachings of Yahweh Shai. Because what? The law, statutes, commandments teach you what? How to love yourself and loving those around you in the land. Without being a punk. Without being a punk. Because you read the scripture, it says some things. And a lot of people get offended about that. A lot of people get offended about that because of that, You ain't got to kowtow. Yeah, I got to remember, what was his name? It's going to come to me. I know it was dealing with Haman and, dang, what's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't say his name. Haman and dang. I can't. It was that guy. It was that guy, right? Look, Haman was coming through, right? And bro, dang, the name just it came but it disappeared. You know what? Let me see. Can I see? Is this how you spell his name? Hold on. Slack. Bear with me. Was it? Dang, was it Heyman? Dang. What book was in? Hold on. Slack. You know what? I'm just let it go because I'm taking up too much time. But the example was old bro was coming through, right? And he didn't move a budge out of his way. You know, because they were persecuting the Israelites. You know, because he was trying to he had a thing against them. You know, it's in the book of Esther. You know, in the book of Esther. You know, and bro was walking through, and Mordecai, I think that's his name, Mordecai. Mordecai didn't move out the way, even though he was honored by the king. He gave him no regard. He gave him no regard. You know. Well, he had integrity. He knew what he was about and what he was about to do, but yeah, he stood boldly. He sat there boldly. Just like Yahweh Shah was boldly in the presence of the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and all them, and Pilate. He was there boldly, you know. This is listen to this. This is Titus 2:7. Listen, in all things, showing thyself a pattern of good works. What? Showing some, that showing yourself a pattern of good work. People seeing your good works. People like, oh, yeah, that guy, he well rounded. He's sharp. You know. Yes, we supposed to, actually look good. Because it's a scripture that says, a man by his the way what he roughly paraphrasing what he wears, how he laughs, how he walks. You could tell a man because of that. Also a woman too, but scriptures talk about a man. You can tell a man by that, by the way he laughs, walks, and dresses. You supposed to what? Ain't no sin. You ain't being prideful. Trying to put on some. Trying to look good, showing yourself that you can actually dress, that you can actually groom yourself, that you can actually present yourself with integrity, But not only that, but doing good, Not being nice, but doing good, Let's read this again. This is Titus. Chapter 2, verse 7. All things showing thyself a pattern of good works, and doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, and sincerity. Sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. You ain't preaching. You ain't preaching this to make money. Try to abuse people, abuse your power, abuse your knowledge to strangle the sheep. You're wringing them out for money. You're wringing them out for the applause, adorations. You're wringing them out for that. Nah, you're feeding them, freely, with sincerity that it cannot be condemned, because all you speaking is what? It's truth. You be trying to be fair. That's what you want to be known as. Having integrity is what? Being fair. Having integrity is being fair, You know what? Let's get an example. Well, I ain't gonna get the whole example. I'm just get what it said about him. This is Job. It's a lot. Chapter 2, verse 3. Listen. Yeah. This is Job chapter 2, verse 3. Listen. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, and a perfect and upright man who feared the Most High, and reared evil. And hold on, I know. Okay, what was that? I know it means hate or disdain. Does it? And reared evil, and that's which evil, and still he hold fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. Now I'm just jump to it. You know, everything Yahweh Shemal Shah threw at him, you know, it took him. It took him, but guess what? You know, when his wife said, curse the Most High and die, what he did? He told you sound like one of the foolish ones. You know, he kept his worship, his foundation on Yahweh Shema Shai. He didn't move because he was getting cursed. All those plays were hitting on him. He didn't move. He kept his integrity. What he say? Shall I accept the good things and not the bad? You know? Shall I accept the good things and not the bad? You know? And that's how we gotta be. Yeah, we had some good times. Everything was copacetic. But hey, Jacob's trouble about to come. And guess what? We just got to go through it. But still calling on, leaning on Yahweh Shem Yahushua. That integrity, you know? Having that integrity until the end. What scripture say? Hold on, let me see. Let me get it. Listen, this is Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Have that integrity unto death. He will give you a crown of life. You know? What, you standing 10 toes down on that foundation of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. You know? Having that integrity. So remember, brothers and sisters, have spiritual integrity, have self-integrity, have financial integrity, you know, and keep it pushing through the good and the bad, you know. And with that, I hope you was edified. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, the house of David. Until next time, Yahweh willing, Shalom.